Hey guys, 12 here, and today I will be covering a new enchantment system. This one is kind of similar to my previous video, which is my second most popular video on the channel at this time, and it's kind of meant to be an intermediate or advanced level system that is based on that one in the sense of the previous video. It still holds valid. You can still use it today if you use command blocks. Go ahead and use that to help come up with your stuff. This is a data pack version that involves a system that you can expand. This one is way less laggy than that one, and it's way quicker to add new enchantments. So today we're going to be covering some of the enchantments I added to the base so you can see kind of the functionality. Then we're going to be covering how the data pack works, and finally we're going to be adding 2 enchantments of our own to demonstrate just kind of how to use it. So first off, let's go ahead and run around so you can see some of the functionality of it. So I have some leaping boots that'll give me a jump boost, and I have an explosive chest plate on. So if I get hit, there's a good chance that it will just blow up. So let's, oh, there we go. So then I can hit him to get health back using my leech sword, just so that I don't die on you guys. So let's swim across here. So one of the things I can also do is I can also use this to till a bunch of land, which is nice, and I can also excavate a bunch of land. Okay. So I excavated a bunch of land. I can also use this to use possible lightning. Alright, so if I hit these, I might get lightning. Ooh, okay, I turned it into a big one. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm out of here. So, just as kind of a separate thing, I wanted to come into this world to show you that also zombies can hit you, and with the lightning sword. So he actually gave me lightning there. And you can also stack these enchants, as you might have been wondering. Can you have lightning and leech? Yes, you can have lightning and leech. You can have any combination with any levels as long as you code what the levels do. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and get into the technical aspect of it. So to install the pack, there's going to be a zip file, and the zip file will be just like this, and the zip file will be in the description. You can download it, and you will go into the zip file. There will be a folder that should say CW enchant system, and you will drag that into the data packs folder to get started on your work. So inside here there are a couple subfolder directories. One is my math RNG pack, because we need the RNG. The next is the entity hit matching data pack with a little bit of adjustments for this specific system. That makes it a little bit more expensive, but that's what we need. The next thing is the ench, which is our actual namespace. So in ench, you just have functions. So just go into functions. Okay. So how to apply an enchant? So that is just up to you. So it's going to be up to you to come up with some system that applies these enchantments and all those. This is the enchantment system. So it's the system for handling what the enchantments do and recognizing what they are and making them happen, which in and of itself is complicated. So I have these helper functions under enchant that you can run to give you some demos. So you can do /function while holding a sword and run the lightning enchant, and you will get lightning 2. And if you hold sword and do leech, you will get lightning and leech. And yes, these do stack. So if I go into survival and I hit him, I will get my health back, but I will also have a chance to lightning. So yeah, the enchant stack. So then basically that's how you apply those. Then the other one that I actually didn't show is the lava walker. So if you wear the boots and then if you wear the armor and then apply the armor enchant, it will enchant the armor, and then you can walk on lava like that, but it doesn't delete the blocks because I felt like it wasn't necessary to do that. So yeah, these are very simple enchantments, but they're pretty well organized in their design and how the system works. So we're going to cover how to add to the system. So some things to keep in mind is there's this convention of source and target. Source is always the thing dealing the damage, and target always does the thing getting the damage. In some cases, the player is the source because they dealt the damage to the enemy. In other cases, the player is the target because they are the ones receiving the damage from the enemy. So you can play around with this in many different ways, and you could create an enchantment that makes the enemy, like maybe you could create an enchantment that is affected on both ends. These ones are mainly only affected on one end, but you could do both ends. So we're going to create a frost sword So inside the source, so what matters here when you're doing a frost sword? The source or the target? Well, it depends. So you would think that the source is what matters, but it's constructed in a very particular way. So in source, what happens is we copy all of the enchants from the player or mob, and it makes sure, like, if it's a mob, it uses a different MBT. And then we save them on a separate scoreboard as well as on storage, as well as onto temp. So what happens when you run directory is it will loop through every enchantment that is on their weapon in their main hand. But when you come to target, it does very similar things, except it copies all of their armor. Because the target, the thing getting hit, you care what their armor is, but it also appends all the enchants from the thing that hit them that was a weapon. So what ends up happening here is you can check for weapon enchants on the target end, which is how lightning works. So we saved what the enchantment was on the source end, and then we loaded it on the target end. And it is multiplayer friendly with all that. Come on. Okay, if you don't understand how the... how functions and nesting and those kind of things, I have plenty of videos on that, but just trust me, it's multiplayer friendly and multi-entity friendly. Anyways, so we can first frost, we can kind of copy the capabilities of lightning. So we have to come up with a new ID. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. One of the tricky things is remembering how many IDs you have. You can add like fake if statements. So you can add like an if statement here that does nothing, even though like you can just do if 7, just so that you remember that the next one, the one you haven't made, is 8, because but I didn't do that. So just know that 8 is the next one here, because there's 7 already implemented, was already implemented as the super hoe. So 8 is going to be freeze. Let's call it freeze. And then the method. So the method is how it got here. So method of 0 means that it's like a one shot, you got hit, okay? Method of 1 means that you are coming from a loop. So there actually is a looping method here. And that's how frost and leaping work, lava walker and leaping work. But in this case, you're hitting something, so it would be method 0. And the method number is arbitrary. It just helps you delineate what is what, because these functions get recalled for all the different inputs, just to simplify things, essentially. So then we can just copy lightning and call it freeze. And everything in this function is all up to you. So you can do anything in this subfunction. So what I like to do is I like to pull from the temp at 0's level. This is a good command right here. You can put it on .level ench, and this will basically unload what level it was. And then I'm just going to do it always. And you can keep in mind that things with a tag of source, if they're hit from melee damage, they will have a tag called source and a tag called target. So you can kind of play with those. If they come from the melee function, they will have these tags. And that's how I make sure that like the player gets resistance, but the lightning happens at the mob. But everything in here is in reference to the thing that is getting hit. So all you need to do for frost is freeze the thing getting hit. So then you can just do execute if score level ench matches 1, run effect give as slowness 1 true. Let's give it 3 seconds. And also amplification works with 0 equals 1. So then we can just make it work for up to 3, or however many levels you want to support. Okay, so that added the freeze enchant. That's that easy. So then if you want to add a helper function so you can obtain the freeze enchant, you can just do this. And then your helper function needs the ID of 8. And then we'll call this freeze 2. So then if I hit reload, we can go ahead and take out our sword, and let's go into creative. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a new sword. And let's go function enchant / freeze. Now we have freeze 2. Okay. Now I can go here. I can go into survival. And I know you guys are going to tell me in the comments that I don't have to type it, but I love to type it. So there, he is moving slower. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah. You can tell. He's moving slower. And you can add particle effects too if you want like a particle effect. Ooh, and he dropped his sword. That's cool. So you can have particle effects too. So you could do slash particle snowball snowflake. Okay. Yeah, so we can do this, and we can do execute as. It's not assumed that you are at the mob, so you will just have to play with that to figure out the like where things are. So there you go. So now there's like particles around him. Very cool. And you could add a sound effect too if you want. But yeah, that's how to do it, and that's it. And it's pretty amazing, and the efficiency is really good. So one of the things you might notice is adding a new enchantment is a matter of one more score check, and a score check tiny as hell. So who cares? Perfect. So I mean, it's pretty efficient. I don't know what else to say. It's a little bit confusing because you have to remember what the IDs correlate to, but it's very efficient. So now we're going to add an armor based, and we're going to add an armor based of. We'll add an armor base called Frostbite. So when you get hit, it freezes them. So we'll add that. I mean, I'm kind of lazy right now with ideas, so let's go ahead and add that. So in source, no. Where would it be? Where would you put it? You would put it in target. So in target, because they are getting hit, but in a different way, right? So in target, this is the person getting hit, receiving the damage. Okay, yeah, cool. So let's call this Frostbite. Okay. And you can always just play around with it. We would copy it with freeze. So let's call it Frostbite. Okay. Okay. So then now instead of giving you the freeze, what can we do? We can give at E tag equals source the freeze. So this will give that mob the freeze. Okay. Very easy. Very easy. So then if I go ahead and go with, I'll copy explosive. Let's do frostbite. Let's put it on the legs just cuz. And let's do frostbite 3. ID of 9. Okay. So then if I give myself iron leggings, and then I run the function frostbite. So when he hits me, he gets slowed, and yeah, pretty simple, just like that. Of course, he has a lightning sword, so I do not want to have to get killed by that. But yeah, so mobs that hit me get slowed. That's a very simple concept. So then we're also going to add a enchant that is a looping enchant. So let's add a looping enchant, and how about we just make one that's pretty particles? I mean, that's good enough for me. So it would be a armor loop, but you don't have to worry about that. You just have to go to target is always going to be armor loops. So that's the second convention that you have to understand. How I set up the loop system is target is always armor loops and source is always weapon loops. I don't know why you'd want a weapon loop. Most of the time it's just gonna be armor loop. So let's just call this snowflakes, and let's just go particle. Okay, I may have goofed. So when I deleted a file on accident. So anyways, so snowflake, and let's go with 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0, 3. Okay, so this is going to be looped though, so that's why I put so few. And then let's go up 1. Okay, so then let's go into our directory, and let's just go here, 10 snowflake. But keep in mind, this is a loop, so you put a method of 1. The method is loop method, so you need a 1. And you could have multiple things run for different loop methods. So you could have a enchantment that does a loop method and a hit method. So then let's go ahead and just do snowflake. Okay, and then armor.head, head, snowflake. And this one does not need a level, so we'll just put it as that, and then save it, and then reload it, and then give us a diamond helmet, and run the function. Okay. Oh, the name of the file is snowflakes, so I gotta make sure I named the file correctly. And then I also need to be at s. And there you go. So now I get snowflakes around me when I have this helmet on. Or none when I don't have it on. So that kind of shows you how to use a loop. A looping enchant. And then you also have 2 custom enchant input methods that I designed here that are available. There's mine and hoe. Mine is not perfect, and I'll explain why. And hoe is actually perfect. So the way that you kind of interface a new method, or like a new way to come in, is you would create a new ID for a method, but I just picked 2 as anything that is right-clicking from, like you're coming from a right click. So I just chose that as 2, but you could come up with a new method number just to delineate, and then you run either source start or target start depending on where you're coming from. So this really has to do with if it's a weapon or an armor. So if it's a tool in your hand, then you need source. If it's a armor thing, I don't know why, maybe like blocking with a shield. Nope, that's not armor. Okay, I don't know why you would need it. So you're mainly going to run source start. But if you have to run target start, you have to make sure you remove a certain data storage, and I can help you with that in the Discord if you ever have any problems. So anyway, so the way the hoe works is it uses a advancement that I added called hoe, and the advancement checks when you use an item on a block, and the item that you're using is a hoe. So when you use the hoe, you run the hoe function. Simple, simple, simple. So there is an advancement trigger that activates when you hoe the land. So when you hoe the land, run source start, and then you're done. That's it. That's the new method implemented. But then of course you also have to add the functions for super hoe, and these are in a subfolder because there's a couple functions involved with super hoe where it raycasts to figure out where the farmland is that you right clicked. But it's still just add a line that checks a score, and you're done. Okay, and then there is mine. Mine is a little bit tricky. So with mine, the way that I activated it is by checking when the durability on one of your pickaxes changes. And this is inaccurate because if I melee something, then my durability doesn't change. So in order to do this, I basically gave a tag, and then in the main, I run a function if you have the tag. And if you have the tag, then it looks for a item to run the function at, the source function at. You're still running it as the player, so it can do the referencing, but you're running it at the nearest item that doesn't have a tag. So then basically the logic is if you're meleeing something with your pickaxe, you probably there won't be any items nearby, but if you're mining, then there will be items nearby. And obviously that logic breaks down in certain situations, but I wanted to just get it out there and implement it. There's other ways you can implement this accessing. For example, if you want to do some kind of a vein miner, you can have a list of scoreboards that check when you mine a specific block, aka the ores, which is a finite number of things. So it's possible to implement that, and then basically you just run all your score checks for the player, and then when you're ready to say let's run the vein miner, then you just have to run source start function. So hopefully that gave you a pretty good overview of all of the ways that this thing works. It's not very simple, but it's also pretty simplified in the amount of command functions there are in it, and it's definitely simplified in the amount of commands that are running. I used predicates to get this looping thing working, so it does do a check of MBT, 2 MBT checks in a main loop, but it is running through a predicate, so it's a little bit better. But other than that, that is the main efficiency problem, but you can't really do much about that besides slow the loop down if you're having some inefficiency lag problems with it, but you should be probably fine. But you can always slow the loop down if you need to like a 10 tick or whatever is reasonable for you. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this data pack. If you guys liked it, please leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you want to see next in the chat, in the comments, or join the Discord and we can talk there. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.